Good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to give a big tip of hand to Keith. You all, Keith, look rad. This is undoubtedly one of my favorite conferences for the year. I think Keith has done a great job bringing us all together every year since I've been here. Now, I think today I want to kind of talk about same topic before, is this where we headed with cellular and Wi-Fi. When I first went to Cisco, I saw these SP guys are spending like $20 billion on infrastructure. And it's like, I thought for sure they could spend $1 billion on Wi-Fi. You guys are going to get a lot more money out of your Wi-Fi investment than you are of all this cellular stuff. And what I learned is that after spending $1 billion, 20-some billion dollars on licensed spectrum, the CEO of AT&T was going to get fired. He could not. You want me in this area? Oh. A little controlling, isn't he? He's like, I'll stay right here. Okay. But anyway, what I learned in that lesson was, hey, the CEO of AT&T, he was not going to spend any money. He got to get a return on that investment. And all his investment was going to go towards licensed spectrum. So that was one friction I saw in this whole why can't we get a better together story going. The other thing I learned when I went and talked to Verizon guys, they were like, you expect me to put my users on this unlicensed thing? How would I ever do that to my poor user? We have no clue whether that's going to be a good experience or not. And so these have been the friction points I've seen be trying to bring this Wi-Fi and a licensed spectrum together. I think it is necessary, though, as you look where we're headed. We're going to have both spectrum, unlicensed, licensed, cellular Wi-Fi. We're going to have to converge these things together to really get a better user experience. At the end of the day, I don't think any of us care, to this point, how I'm connected to the internet. I just want to be connected to the internet, whether it's Wi-Fi or cellular. I just want to have the best connection available. The other thing I always remind people, send the FCC a Christmas card every year. I think most of us here started our careers back in the 80s. That's when the FCC brought these unlicensed rules. Most of us have made a career, raised families, sent kids to school, and it's mostly because of the FCC. And we need to tip our hats to the people like Mary Brown. I don't know if people know Mary Brown at Cisco, or Peter, or Dave Wright. These are the people. This is not a fun job. This spectrum stuff is like Glacier trying to move government regulations. Because you look at the history of this, right? There's like over 100 years of spectrum regulation that these guys are trying to evolve and take care of to make room for all these new services. So you need to take a look at that. The second thing you notice, Christmas card, 1985, memorable date. 2015 was when all the CBRS rules started to come down the pipe. And CBRS reminds me of the early days of Wi-Fi, right? If you look at Wi-Fi, some of the greatest things came out was basically getting spectrum, global spectrum. That's kind of the key. So when we keep an eye on CBRS and private stereo, the question is it going to become a must-have on par with Wi-Fi? Are we going to see private cellular networks next to every Wi-Fi network we deploy? Are we going to see our customers start deploying CBRS alongside their Wi-Fi networks everywhere? So this is one we should all keep our eyes on. 6 gigahertz, I think this speaks for itself, right? I think you saw the slide before. We are going to have over 1 gigahertz of spectrum available in license, right? And that's why unlicensed and Wi-Fi are going to be key for all of us in the future and for all our customers and partners. If we look what's going on in the license space, the way the licensed spectrum is sold right now, most carriers at most can get 100 megahertz, right? So you can kind of see this discrepancy, right? We're moving from licensed has got 10 times more spectrum than licensed. We are going to have to leverage both of these going forward in the future. And the reason is because the industry we're in now, and this is all of us here right now, this is becoming an economic necessity on par with electricity and water, right? The networks that we are building are becoming national priorities. I was at another conference recently where the big topic was, we were falling behind the Chinese on 5G, right? The question was, how is the U.S. going to make sure we keep up with the Chinese in the 5G cellular space? And that's going to come up in the 6G too. So this is a national parity of making sure, your country, this country here, right, the economic viability of our kids are going to be based on connectivity. A lot of economic stuff is happening because of all the connectivity we're providing. And you look where we are right now, 60% of the world is connected to the internet, mobile internet somewhere. 90% have clean water and power. The scary thing is it's not 100%, but you can see the gap between internet, power, electricity, they're almost on par now. Now, this is the one thing of these two worlds. The question is CBRS going to be the thing that really brings the cellular world and the Wi-Fi world together? I think this is right now the opportunity, for us in the IEEE world. Wi-Fi has kind of been known as this simple, democratically available everywhere, right? If you look at that spectrum chart, right, Wi-Fi has become the neutral host technology for the world. Wherever you go in the world, you can be guaranteed there will be a Wi-Fi connection somewhere. We all depend upon it when we're traveling now. The question is, are we going to see CBRS become the neutral host for cellular? And this is that must-have. Or are we going to see it become the indoor cellular standard? Wherever you go, if you want cellular voice, CBRS is positioned to actually play that role, if the spectrum regulators can get their act together. You look what happened with Wi-Fi. First, we had spectrum regulators agree to 2.4 and 5 gigahertz worldwide. That happened. The other big thing was the WFA, right? We had the WFA basically provide interoperability, which was the other key part for Wi-Fi becoming what it is today. Those hurdles need to be cleared for CBRS. It's not clear, are we going to get the regulators to agree on a common private enterprise spectrum everywhere? We're starting to see it. I think the US has these kind of very complicated CBRS rules. The rest of the world is actually going to more simple licensing spectrum, 10-year spectrum. They're giving out licenses, 10-year licenses at very nominal rates. So I think one of these schemes are going to take over in terms of making it available for the rest of the world to use private cellular spectrum. Now this one here is, if you guys kind of look at, the point of this slide, I think I feel like we're getting to the point like the laptop. Remember how we all got crazy about how fast our laptops, and every time the laptop went faster, we went out and bought the latest and newest one? I don't think any of us really look at the laptop speed anymore, because our laptops have all got fast enough now for most of our applications. I don't think any of you really care exactly what's inside that laptop anymore. You're buying it. I think we're almost at the same point with the wireless thing. To the gentleman, someone else mentioned, right, the marketing numbers, those peak numbers, we're never going to see those for practical purposes. Wi-Fi, cellular, the throughput's all about the same. There's all types of reasons, practical reasons we get different numbers when we test them. But we're at the point where the speed is no longer an issue coming on. What is an issue is, you look at the spectrum, you look where 5G, 6G is headed, they're all talking millimeter wave. To really get the next generation of speed and capacity, I suspect we are going to head the same way. We're not going to see in Wi-Fi7, but somewhere along the way, 60 gigahertz is going to, come up. It's probably going to be in the next version of this Wi-Fi 8 or something, where we start to add millimeter wave into the equation, right? And we're in a good position, right? Because indoors, millimeter wave actually is a pretty good solution for most indoor things for line of sight type of places, where we can actually leverage it. The other interesting thing that I've looked into is, if you look into the 6G, they are starting to talk about AI, where AI is going to fit in the next generation of standards. And so this is another thing I think for this group. I know we're all into the nuts and bolts of Wi-Fi and the speeds and feeds and all the knobs on our Wi-Fi things. But I would encourage everyone here to at least spend some time to start understanding the value of AI. Let's see, how many people have used OpenAI Chat GPT yet? Okay. How many people, are you guys skeptical that this stuff is going to make a difference now? When you try that stuff, it is scary. It may not always be accurate, but it is scary how human-like it sounds, right? And that's what happens when you build a model that's like 175 billion parameters, right? And you train it with human assisted. That thing got scary good. And believe it or not, the next one you're going to see is going to have 100, I think it's 100 trillion parameters. You know, GPT-4 is going to be 10 times bigger than GPT-3. So that stuff is becoming real. You know, I know there's a lot. Well, let me see. How many of my, where's Lee Badman? Is Lee in the room? No, oh, there he is, over there somewhere. How many AI skeptics? I know Lee's a skeptic. How many other skeptics? How many other, oh, come on, you guys. We are honest. Yeah, so this is something, you guys, you look at this stuff and you'll find out your skepticism is going to be fading. So this is the other big change in our, paradigm shift. I mean, we are focused right on that little wireless piece. And yeah, we all got to keep the wireless green, got to keep switches, got to keep all this stuff green. But it's really changing, that's all it's amiss, is the paradigm of the user experience. And this is where AI has started to make a difference. And what's happening right now at the application level is, we're starting to ingest data on that vertical side from the application. We're starting to join that data with the network features, right? Application data, join it with the network feature data, and you start to get this. This is where it's worth your time to spend a little bit understanding this fancy math. Sudhir and I always have big arguments about, does this fancy math really make a difference? This is a case once you actually start taking Zoom data or throughput data and combine it with your network features. And once you can actually build a model that can accurately predict someone's speed test or predict someone's Zoom performance, then you can start answering the questions of, what network feature is causing the problem for all these poor Zoom experiences. That is the power of the fancy math. Once you get enough data, you can start doing, magical things like that open chat GPT thing. Now, this slide here kind of points to, when you open up the hood and say, okay, show me what algorithms you really are using under there. But you find some of these algorithms are what we call ML, right? And they've been around 20, 30, 40 years, most of our careers. But the real magic is up in this deep learning. That's where all that open chat GPT stuff is coming from, right? They're using these new transfer models from 2017 at Google. And that is where, in the networking space, we're going to see the same thing. LSTM, transformers, those are going to make a big difference in our space in terms of being able to predict user performance, Zoom performance, and then be able to correlate that back to that network feature, whether it's the wireless link, the LAN link, or the WAN link. And this is where I would encourage everyone in this room to take a little bit of time to read up on this and understand a little bit. I don't think you have to become an expert in this. Now, I have to tell you, my data science class lost out to drones. So I kind of know where the data science ranks in this thing. I even tried to throw some wine in there to get it more enticing. Nope. So next year it's going to be full wine tasting, no data science. We're going to go, none of that. I know where the crowd is right now. The other big thing in this convergence is roaming. Let me see anyone here playing around with open roaming? Anyone starting to play around? Yeah, so this is something I've been playing around with since Cisco days, Passpoint and all that stuff. Everyone gives me a hard time, Bob. It's taking 10 years for the stuff to catch on. Slowly it's catching on. Slowly we're starting to get people, the device guys, we got to get the Apple guys on board. They're almost there, got the Samsung. This will make it a lot easier for people to move between these cellular and Wi-Fi networks. This will make connecting to a Wi-Fi network right there on par with a cellular network, right? It should just seamlessly happen when you walk into a venue or walk into an environment. So anyone interested in this stuff, this is a personal pet project I've been working on for 10 years. 14, yeah, probably more than 10 years. This one I think we're getting close. I know there's a lot of big customers right now are actually starting to adopt it in the retail space and such. Now this one here is kind of my view after being on the journey for most of my life. I think most of us started back in that early 2000s. I think someone already did this, like, how many people have been here for over 20 years? I think where's all the 20 year? Most of us all started in the 2000 timeframe type of thing. It all started with these autonomous CLI APs, AeroNet, that Cisco bought back in those early days. And then there's a whole bunch of us, right? Aerospace, Aruba, Ruckus, who all started these controller businesses. And that was kind of the transition from becoming CLI jocks to actually starting using dashboards, right? Trying to make things easier to use with controllers and dashboards. You know, the third generation is what I call the cloud AI. That was the beginnings of Meraki, Mist. That's when it's like we learned that these cloud networks are a lot better for developing and maintaining software. You know, I thought, you know, delivering software on a Linux box back in my airspace, I thought that was cool. I basically sworn I will never deliver any more on-prem software. It's a waste of life. You don't have that long to live. No need to waste life on that stuff anymore. We now have cloud. You can develop and maintain software and do code releases every week, not every year. This is like we're talking every week. You can basically update that code base. You can never do that in the controller world. The other big thing in this thing is conversational interfaces. You know, if you haven't tried ChatGPT, go take a look at it. And what's going to happen here, we're going to start seeing the migration from dashboards. This is going to be your Star Trek computer. You're going to start asking your network what's going wrong, what's happening, and getting it to help you understand, find problems in the network. So conversational interfaces are slowly going to become this new UI that we're going to be dealing with to help interface for our networks faster. And then when I look forward, kind of what's coming down the pipe, I see a couple things. I see this AI ops stuff starting to make a big difference. We see the CBRS. We still got to keep an eye on the CBRS and see if that's going to become a must-have. You know, is that going to? It's definitely going to be in everyone's. I can tell you right now, all our customers are going to have CBRS in their, like Zigbee, in their bag of tricks for solving problems. I think the question is it really going to become a must-have in every enterprise campus that we deal with. We have the NAS thing going on. I don't know if you guys heard of Nile. These are the guys who want to put you out of business. These are the guys who are thinking, we don't need any more network. We'll outsource the whole problem. No more networking teams needed. You know, we're going to outsource the networking problem to a network as a service. Now, I personally, I've looked at this. I've seen some companies do it. I'm still kind of hesitant that most companies are going to basically turn their network over to some other company. You know, and I think most of you here, I mean, it's definitely not in your interest to turn over your network to someone else. And probably the other big thing is this open Wi-Fi. You know, this is the series of, are we ever going to see the white box thing come to Wi-Fi? Is someone going to build us an enterprise-grade AP? You know, if it was around when I started Mist, I would not have built an AP. If someone could have given me an enterprise-grade AP, I would have definitely used it. You know, if you talk to the Facebook, the Meta guys, we're getting close. They swear we're going to be like a data center server, and they're going to give us this white box enterprise AP that works great. I'll believe it when I see it, but it's something worth keeping an eye on. So with that, I want to thank everyone for here. You guys are the next. For anyone who's been here less than 10 years, you're the next generation. The rest of us are going off to the sunset here shortly. So I wish you guys luck.